Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us for another session of Coffee with Chris. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about reporting in Business Central. My name is Chris Young, and I'm a managing partner of the NAV and Business Central practice at Clients First. I've been doing ERP and IT consulting for over 30 years, and day to day, I'm a solution architect here with our Business Central practice, helping clients take the most advantage out of functionality available in the software. I've been consulting in all things in the NAV world since 1997. So what we're going to cover today, reporting in Business Central. One of the common phrases I've heard is drowning in data, but starving for information. And Business Central is a fantastic centralized repository of data, but how do you get it out? There are a bunch of built-in tools for financial reports, for the standard reports, whether it's a document you're printing or, a standard report like an inventory aging or, standard business reports, statements, orders, invoices. There are ad hoc queries. And many times this is when we dig into data like customer ledger entries or general ledger entries or item entries. And then we want to get data out. And how do we make sense of that data and make it useful? And I'm going to talk about how we can use Excel, pivot tables, and then the new Copilot analysis views. Then we're going to talk about the built-in component to Business Central in the SaaS world, that is Power BI. And I'll illustrate some of the new tools that Microsoft is including as they continue to update the SaaS product. And then we'll talk about what I call external power tools. So without delay, financial reporting. And everyone's familiar with the term account schedules. So Microsoft finally, if I go to tell me what you want to do, and I put in account schedules, Microsoft has finally changed the name account schedule to financial reports. So financial reports are made up of column definitions, which are the columns. Those are the vertical columns that hold up buildings, and a row definition, which are the rows within a report. If we take a look at a report and I say view the financial, you'll notice that on screen, I have a financial report overview that is based on a row definition. And if I click on definitions and say, show me the row definitions, these are the rows that are included. Now we can modify these, we can create copies, we can make new ones. This one is leveraging account categories, which is a newer field in the chart of accounts to simplify the category of show me assets, liabilities, equity accounts, income, versus having individual posting accounts or totaling accounts, or in this case, a formula. So you define the rows. You can put in any kind of numbering sequence you want here. This is just to set the order of the way the details are listed. And then as you control in a row definition, what's the type of data that I'm actually going to present? Is it the net change for a time period? What is the amount type? Is it just debits, just credits? Is it everything? So you control through the row definitions how things are displayed and what's bold and what's underlined or double underlined or in italics. We then configure our column definitions. And if we look at column definitions, we can tell it if we want to use budget entries or GL entries. Do we want net change, balance at date, ending balance, or beginning balance? When do we want signs to be opposite? So if we've got a variance and it's a negative, we want it to show positive. We can go ahead and choose when we want columns to display. So you have a lot of power in configuring your report definitions and rows and columns. And the beauty of running a report in this view, we call it an overview, is that when I look at the values, so if I scroll down on this report and I want to look at, for example, the $492,000 of revenue that came in April, when I drill down, and that's the power, we can drill down. I can see all of the accounts that are included in that row, and I can say, oh, wow, it's all the majority of that revenue, 493,000 was from this GL account. Let's drill into that. And now I can see here's all the transactions, and wow, this one's jumping out 350,000 from a single transaction. I can see the journal entries that were posted. And if I click find entries and then I click on the invoice, I can actually bring up that document and say, okay, the School of Fine Art, we sold them 35 chairs and we charged them $10,000 a piece, where it's coming up with my $350,000 in revenue. And I'll just tap escape to come back. So with financial reporting built in account schedules, there's some really nice reporting that's built into the product. We can also print to Excel, and of course, we can print to paper if we want. Standard reports. So standard reports use standard report layouts, but we can also customize those. And we can send those reports to Excel or paper, and we can do quite a bit with labels out of the box. So let's take a look at some report layouts. If I go ahead and I go to aged accounts receivable or payable, and I bring up a report, you'll notice that the report layout option is available for me. And if I choose which report layout do I want, and I only have one in here for this report, but we can have multiple versions of report layouts, and they can be made available where you might have different versions of the sales order confirmation based on a customer. And then you can choose which layout defaults by customer, or different versions of purchase orders for vendors. But if you had different versions of summary or detail agings or basically any report, you can choose the report layout at runtime. When we go ahead and generate a report, we can send it to Excel. And you'll notice the options for Excel, data and layout. That means we'll have headings. It's the way it used to be in the nav world, and it was annoying, right? But you can say, no, just send the data only. So now I get a usable Excel spreadsheet when I generate that kind of report. Of course, I can preview, and I'll do one of those quickly. Just aged accounts. We'll run the aged AP report, and we'll do it in detail, and we'll go ahead and preview. And when the system presents reports on screen, we can, of course, print them, but we'll have all the detailed layouts that I want and all the information presented on screen, or I can save them. I can print to PDF. Now, with the report layout, though, what about custom report layouts? So we'll go ahead and I'll put in custom report layouts. Because what if I want to make a change to something? I want to change the way an order confirmation appears. So we have the ability when looking at any report in the system, some are RDLC, this uses Visual Studio Code to make a customization, but any of the reports that exist as a Word doc, when we go through and want to do a modification or adjust this type of a report, we can export this to Word. And we can export the report to Word. And when I open that in Microsoft Word, let me do that again. And we'll go ahead and I'll export that layout. And it's going to open this document in Word. And when I want to work on this in Word and I want to modify, the system supports drag and drop editing. And in order to access that, you need to go into your options and you need to turn on customize ribbon, and you need to turn on an option called developer. And when you turn that on or enable developer, and you open the developer tab, you can open the XML mapping pane. So when I drill down into the properties, I can see here's the standard sales order report 1305. Here are all of my fields on the header. And as I continue down, the fields on the lines, the totals section. So if I want to make a change or add a description or move a field around, we have the ability to drag and drop data sets onto the existing Word document layout, then export that or save it and import it back into Business Central to create a modified layout, whether it's just a font or we want to put a logo, change the layout, change it to portrait or landscape mode. You have the ability to make any of those changes using Microsoft Word. So those are also considered reports in Business Central. Label printing. Just want to show you an example of a label in Business Central. And I've created a lot number information card record. And if I take a look at the lot information list, when I have this, here's one lot number I recorded and I put in, quality inspection. But if I print the label, when you're on the SaaS version of the product, the fonts that you would utilize for generating item labels are built into the product. So they're licensed for you to utilize for free. So this is giving me, for a product, when I'm processing, perhaps doing lot inspection, I can print these labels on the fly, where it will print for me my lot number. It will print the 3D barcode with the information presented. So that's just native standard Business Central. Ad hoc queries. So this is where things usually get interesting. People want to get access to their data, and I'll show you the power of Copilot, where if we go back into BC, and I'm going to drill into a source table, item ledger entries. And when I drill into the item ledger entry table, there's a ton of data here. And if I wanted to see information, usually step one would be send that to Excel and then take my Excel and highlight the columns in the data set and create a pivot table. Well, the power of Copilot allows me to go through and say, create a Copilot analysis, and I want to show, say, item sales by month and item, generate. And the system's going to go through and make sense of the data set and create an analysis view for me. So right now it's got the posting date by month and it's got the sales dollar amount. And if I drill down, here are the items for the month of June. And I can drill down and see the individual items that were recorded as transactional. And you'll notice these other analysis views. So here's a different version of item sales by month where I asked it, I want quantity and dollars. So units and dollars, purchases by month, item sales spread by month, where I've got my months going across. So using normal plain language, we can have Copilot assist us in building these types of analysis views, making it very useful to do ad hoc queries without having to extract data to an outside tool. And finally, Power BI. So Power BI is embedded into the SaaS version of the product. There are a bunch of reports included, and there are reports you can download for free from AppSource. So let's just take a quick look. So when I go into explore the entire product and I go to all roles, you'll notice that in the current release, if I look under finance, there's a Power BI reports section with 19 built-in Power BI reports, 12 reports relating to inventory. There are 12 reports relating to manufacturing. And if we continue looking at other sections in the product, Power BI reports like job-based projects reports, they're built-in dashboards that Microsoft has pre-configured for us. If we go ahead and we scroll down to my role center where I've got my Power BI section, I can select which reports I want included. And I can choose default reports, but if I say get reports, we can access reports that are available on AppSource. Microsoft has built a ton of them for free that you can go ahead and choose get, and it will install them into your environment. Here's a powerful one, usage analytics, where I can look at the information relating to any user errors, integration errors, or system errors on a dashboard. Or I can see SQL performance, looking at how is the performance of my system in terms of my environment, by environment. So if you have multiple environments, any long running queries, for example. So that gets into for a technical resource. But if I said, what if, I'm in finance? I want to look at some finance business central dashboards, net changes, expenditures, and revenue by date, mini trial balance. So Microsoft, it's exciting the volume of this type of predefined Business Central dashboards, sales, and there are many of them that are available. So I wanted to make sure that users were aware of the powerful tools that are available for you directly in Business Central. But then I want to talk about external power tools. And for many, many years, our go-to report writing solution, which is an add-in to Excel, was a tool called Jet Reports. And they had an enterprise version called Jet Analytics. And that tool was a go-to for many of our projects. And it was fantastic, but started to become, let's just say, less performant in the SaaS world. Wasn't really designed to connect using that same connector. And Jet's been working on that technology, and they have a solution that's out there and available today. Many clients probably on this call actually have that tool already. Um, but there is another tool that I wanted to introduce everyone to in today's call from a company called Cosmos. And we're going to let Cosmos talk about their product, but it is designed and optimized to work. It is only an option if you are on the SaaS product. So if you're in an on-premise environment, it's not going to be a solution for you. But I wanted to make sure that people were aware of this very powerful tool. And I'm going to turn over the presentation now to Andrew Pearson, who's going to tell you a little bit about Cosmos and then demonstrate the product for us. And once the demonstration is completed, we'll be returning for live Q&A if anyone has any questions. Thanks so much for being here. And I'm going to stop the share. And Andrew, you can take it away.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Chris. Great demo. I appreciate you and the Clients First team for having me on today and for our longstanding partnership in BC reporting. It's always a pleasure. Let me share out my screen here and we'll kind of dive right in. Yeah, so, and also thank you to everyone who's joining today live and who will be reviewing the webinar at a later date. Really appreciate your time here. And yeah, to introduce myself quickly, I've worked with the Clients First team in different capacities for many years. I'm a senior channel manager over here at Cosmos, and I've worked specifically with reporting and analytics out of BC Cloud, deliver educational sessions like these with our partners. So the idea today is to run through a high-level overview of Cosmos, really in order to show how organizations can augment your investment in BC Cloud, really open the door to more robust, flexible, and ad hoc reporting in both Excel and Power BI. So let's kind of dive right in here. If you can see my screen. In the reporting tool landscape for Business Central, Cosmos is widely recognized as the first and only fully cloud-based reporting and analytics platform that was born in the cloud and built specifically for Business Central Cloud. So the cloud will be a common theme throughout this presentation, but that's us in a nutshell there. A little bit about Cosmos as a company. Again, everyone over here at Cosmos has been in the reporting and analytics space their entire careers, right? So we have decades of experience here. And the story is that when Business Central came out, Microsoft was moving people into the cloud. We realized that there were going to be a lot of challenges when it came to reporting and analytics, right? So we built something from the ground up that was purpose built for Business Central SaaS. Something that was incredibly performant and also something that takes that modern approach to reporting, makes things easier with the UI and just easier to democratize, the reporting responsibilities across an organization. So those are our kind of two main pillars that we stand on. I was talking about lightning fast reports, right? The performance. And so we've actually benchmarked our reports at running about 48 times faster on average than other Excel-based reporting tools. We're absolutely proud of that. That's why I have a slide dedicated to that. But we'll spend our time today in the solution. It will start with the Cosmos portal. Again, this is fully cloud-based. Anywhere you have access to a browser, you'll have access to your reports and data. This is where you'll do everything within Cosmos, run reports, build reports, do all of your admin, users, roles, permissions, get to Power BI dashboards, pretty much, start your day here and end your day there. We're going to use the report editor. It is how it sounds. This is what you're going to use to build reports inside of Excel. You can think of the report editor as sort of your conduit to all of your BC data inside of Excel, right? So you have that familiar environment, flexible environment of Excel, and then you have the power of Cosmos to, point and click, drag and drop all of your information into your reports. We also integrate with Power BI. We have a two-way integration. It's basically just another flavor of reporting, just like Chris was mentioning, right? It's a way to visualize your data. Because Power BI really loves relational data sets, we employ a cloud data warehouse up in Azure over here at Cosmos. So we're delivering that data set into Power BI, kind of skip to the head of the line, where you're just moving right into building out your visuals and dashboards. Then we're able to actually deliver those dashboards back into the Cosmos portal, so you have everything all in one place. Okay. Now, lastly here, the Cosmos data engine. This is what's underneath the hood, what really drives Cosmos. I mentioned we employ that cloud data warehouse in Azure. This is what really drives the performance features as well as the ease of use, right? We're cleaning the data, making it really kind of digestible to the end users so that everything makes sense. And that's it for my slides here. So what I'll do is hop out of my PowerPoint and into Cosmos. Um, as I mentioned before, anywhere you have access to a web browser, be it your smartphone, your tablet, I'm here on my PC today at my station, you'll have access to your reports. I'm going to go ahead and log in. It's using the same credentials as the Microsoft stack, so the same credentials as BC, Teams, all that good stuff. We're very tightly integrated with Microsoft. As you can see here, I've landed in my administration section. That's because I'm a main admin on my Cosmos demo tenant. Most of your users will log in and they will land in their report library section here. Okay, it's not a free for all. You'll see I have access to everything in here, but users will have different permissions. They'll only be able to see reports that they've built or that have been shared with them. Now, because I did land here in my administration section, we'll talk about this quickly. Again, this is where you'll manage your users, roles, permissions with drop downs here. We have two different types of users. Full users can do anything within Cosmos. Most importantly, they can get to the data, build things in Excel and Power BI. Light users, right below that, they're able to log in. They can view reports that have been shared with them, toggle on any filters that have been built in with the reports, as well as drill into the transactional detail. Okay. So let's kind of get into the meat of this, which is the reporting side, right? So we're augmenting that investment in BC, right? So we're, able to connect directly to Business Central. All of your data is going to live here. The first thing that I want to point out is our report gallery. Now, pre-built reports are awesome. All of these are available as part of our 25-minute onboarding with Cosmos. So you have about 3 dozen of these. I like to refer to this as like icing on the cake, right? This is a huge head start. We have everything from sales to APAR to core financials, inventory, purchasing reports here. And again, it's a huge head start. You find one that's 95% of what you need. You go ahead and import that into your library, and then you can modify that from there. Okay. The real, value here, which we'll dive into just in a second, is that, you can ad hoc report. You have that flexibility to be outside of BC, inside of Excel to build reports. But let's go through sort of like a light user experience, right? So I logged in for the day. I need to run a report, do some analysis for a meeting later, right? So what I've done there is I've pared down my reports. I'm looking at all my income statements here. What I can do is just I'll pick on this income statement by company, go ahead and hit the play button or the run button. It's going to pull up in my report runs over here on the right. As you can see, I have filters built into my report. So you can have This one has just a date range. You can have by dimension, by department, whatever it might be. You can have filters. I'm going to run this for the month of June 2024 for time's sake. And one thing to note here is that I mentioned we're completely cloud-based, right? And we wanted to build features and functionality into this that really drive performance. We're not using Excel to run the report. We're actually running these in the cloud. That enables me to run 5, 10 different reports simultaneously at the same time. We're not locking up Excel, for the amount of time that it takes to run a report. That took a few seconds there. I can open this in Excel desktop if that's where I prefer to work. You can author your reports there as well. I'm going to go ahead and open this in Excel Online. And what you'll see is just a nice little clean income statement by company. Again, this is just one version of a million different ways you can set this up. This is more of like a detailed version with all of our accounts. We have our 2 companies within columns. We have account category, names, totals, all the way down to net income. But the idea here is I just wanted to run this report, right, and do some analysis. So I can open up my Cosmos task pane. And what this allows me to do is kind of have 2 levels of drill down. Okay, we have report level drill down. A lot of times you want to see what's going on with the plumbing of the report. Is this number a little bit high? What's going on with the report first? So what we did was we enabled end users to have visibility really nicely here in the console to see what's going on. You can see that we're summing up the amounts from our GL transactions table. We've reversed the signs in this section because they're my income accounts. And then we filter up here. It's a little grayed out, but what we're looking at is the GL account number that we're filtering off of is 44200, which checks out, right? We're pulling for the Cosmos Canada company between or for the month of June. Okay, so everything checks out with the report. So that's like report level drill down is what I like to refer to it. But let's take a deeper dive. So we can come up here and let's drill down into the transactional detail. Okay, because maybe you want to do some further analysis here. What it's going to do is it's going to pop up a brand new sheet in Excel Online with a comprehensive view of everything in BC that makes up that sum total. Okay, so you can see along the top here that it's pulling in tons of different information for you to look at. Everything's going to be pre-filtered, right, off the top here. But the idea is like, hey, I can grab everything, throw it into a pivot table if that's how I like to further analyze, because that number looked a little bit high. Okay, so you can come in there, see if someone double entered a number, maybe there's an extra 0, and then go ahead and drop in one of the indicators here. BC is going to be right next to this tab over here. Drop that in and make any changes that you see fit. So again, that 2 levels of drill down right here in the report, and then that transactional detail. All right, so let's get back into the portal here. And a couple things that I want to show you quickly is that there's security built into these reports, right? So let's say I just built this income statement by company. I can share it with whoever I need to just by checking the boxes. So Aaliyah and Jane, maybe Brian's no longer on my finance team, so I don't want him to see the report. If I uncheck his box, when he logs in, he won't even know this report exists. Now, when Jane and Aaliyah do, they will see this report. So we have security built in there. And additionally, we have a scheduler. So this is a cloud-based scheduling application here. You can have as many schedules as you want, send it Monday, Wednesday, Friday at a specific time. Maybe at the last day of the month, you need your month-end financials to send out to people. You can choose who you need to send it to here as well. One thing to note is, of course, you can send it to Cosmos licensed users, but you can also send these out to people who don't have Cosmos licenses. Maybe they just need to view the report. You just toss in their email address here. Okay. We also have batch scheduling, right? So if you have companies that have multiple department heads and you need to send out financials to each one, we have that functionality as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and do like a full user experience here. Let's say I just logged in for the day, right? I can come up here to new report. I can click new report, and I'm just going to do a quick sales report for time's sake. I'm going to do monthly sales by salesperson, and I'm going to call it report. You give it a title. I can check this out in Excel desktop. Again, if I prefer to work there, absolutely you can. We default to Excel Online. And one thing to note here before I build the report is that we actually work on Mac iOS Excel versions, as well as, of course, PC. So if you have users that are using Macs, sometimes you do, you can still use Cosmos. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and create this report. By clicking the Create button, it's going to pop up a brand new blank sheet in Excel Online for me to go ahead and start authoring. I'm going to put in a title here. And again, this is just completely from scratch. Monthly sales by salesperson, right? I can put in some headers. Maybe I want to bring in the customer number, the customer name, maybe the city, the state, the country that they're in, and I want my months across the top. Okay. So I can start, uh, you know, formatting my report how I want. We're in Excel, right? And so that's the beautiful part is that we have that flexibility. And I spelled salesperson wrong. That's going to bother me. So I'll put an S in there, salesperson. And so we put in the headers here. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit for you, just bold it out, give it some color here to delineate the headers and give myself some space. Okay. Now, one of the cool pieces about Cosmos is that, let's say I got called away to a meeting, right? I can close out of my report and I can go back to my workspace. Well, did I just close out? Let's go to new report. That's my fault. Salesperson. Let me redo that real quickly. Monthly sales by salesperson report. Oh, it's already in my library. That's why it won't let me do it. There we go. So if I have to close out of that report, I can always, sign out. I get called into a meeting, but I can sign back into Cosmos and I'm here in my workspace. Okay. So what that means is that this is work in progress. I can pick up where I left off, and it's always going to be here in my workspace. Now I'm going to check this back out for editing. And what this enables me to do is open up my Cosmos task pane and begin dropping in information into my report. So I come up here to Cosmos. Again, we're bolted directly into Excel, and this is your conduit to all of your BC data. And I can just pull this open. Now, this is over here, the report editor. This is going to drive everything I do for my report, right? And what we've done is we've made it simple. All of these operators over here on the right are going to drive a report, whether it's operational or financial report. So you use the same sequence of tools, the same methodologies each and every time. Now, I'm going to put in a report option first, right? And what you can notice here is how nice and clean the data is, right? It's easy to find information. I can put in a report option. For time's sake, I'll just put in year. I can type to find, it's going to pull up my date table, and I can just drop in year. Now, I can do a default date of 2024. I can always toggle on that when I run the report. But you just rinse and repeat. If you want to, by department, by dimension, you just click new, find that, and drop it in, just like I did for year. Now I'm going to go down the line here. I'm going to use what's called sheet lists. Now this isn't a requirement for every report, but what I want to do is put each salesperson here on a different sheet across the bottom. So using this tool here, that allows me to find my salesperson. So I'll go to salesperson down here, find salesperson code, and drop that in. Okay. Something that's really cool is that we have a child sheets concept here. So if you have like a all company sales report here on sheet one, underneath that, you want it by salesperson. Underneath that, you want it by location. They'll all marry up to sheet one. Okay. So that's really nice for like a tree structure or, just different views of your report. Now, going down here, I'm going to use range list. This is what pulls in information into my report. And the concept is if I want to pull in information across rows with data coming down this way, I grab the shape of a row, right? I click new range list. What do I want to bring in? I want to bring in my customers. So I can go down to my sales transactions table. I can find bill to customer, just click add and drop that in, okay? Now I want to do one more range. I want information coming in across my columns. So I'm grabbing the shape of a column and I can click new. What do I want to bring in? I want the months of the year. So I can type in month. Again, it's going to bring up that date table. I'll drop in months of the year. I'm going to take away sorting functionality because it might look strange with my months alphabetical. But as we go down here, what do we need to do next? We've done our first two ranges. Let's bring in fields for our report. And what do we want to bring in? Fields for our bill to customer. Now, if you notice here, if you've never used Cosmos before, it's actually directing you to the information you need for your report. It's pulling in sales stuff, not inventory and finance, things like that. And that's because we employ a relational database and it's smart on the back end. Now, if I drop down sales transactions, I can simply go to my bill to customer right here and start putting in information. So I want the customer name. I just click name. I want the customer city where they're located, as well as the state. I just go ahead and find those, click those and drop them in. And then lastly, the country name. Now to finish this report up, I want to add up my totals for each month of the year, right? So I use the concept of aggregates or summing up the totals. I can click new aggregate. I can find my sales transactions table. That's where all my sales stuff lives. And I scroll down and I find sales. So let's sum up the total sales for each month of the year. Now, here's where I can just type in total sales. I can use Excel, right? So just a little sum function. I can go ahead and give it that almighty top and double bottom border to make it official. And then let's make these dollars. Okay. Now I'm completely finished with this report. One of the cool parts about Cosmos is I can come in here and preview my report, use any of the filters. When I run the preview, this will actually complete a finished version of your report in a separate sheet in Excel Online. I can drag that over to my other monitor and I can still be in this area making any edits that I see fit. You know, if I drop in a company logo or the conditional formatting, I can make changes here and still see the finished product on a different screen. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to get back into my portal. I'm going to shut that down. I can drop in a screenshot of my report, my company logo, picture of my cat, my dog, whatever it might be. I'm going to drop it in blank here and go ahead and find it down in my production reports. So I'm going to scroll down. Here's that report I just built. I'm going to go ahead and hit that play button. Again, I can toggle on the filters here. I can do multiple years. I can do just 2023 and go ahead and click run. Now, what I want you to notice here is in activities, we're not just running one report. We're running a report for each of my sales people, right? Here along the bottom. So when this finishes up here in just a second, we'll open this up. Again, you get that fork in the road. I'm going to open it up in Excel Online. And that what you'll have is now you'll have a nice report. Some of these people don't have data, but you'll have a report on each sheet across the bottom. You'll have your salesperson on each sheet. And then you have the additional information as well as each sales for the month of the year totaled up. Okay. So that's the idea of building a report. Again, now is more of like a operational report, but again, you can have access to any of your data, inventory, financials, anything like that. I'm going to kind of switch gears here, okay? And I talked about Power BI, right? So you have, all of your data available for you in the Excel reporting here, but a lot of organizations really like to use Power BI for, trends, KPIs, just visualizing the data, right? So what we've done is we've built an API so that all of your Cosmos data from BC is delivered directly in here in a relational data set format. That's what Power BI loves to ingest. And, we eliminate a lot of those complexities with DAX and SQL coding where it just becomes a technical exercise, right? So with Cosmos, I can come in here from day one. I can start dropping in my data here. I want to see sales by my salesperson. I want to see that in a donut chart. Maybe I want to see sales by the items that we sell at our organization. Just drop that in. And then lastly, maybe I want to see total sales by state, like where we're selling at the most of what widget, whatever it might be, in a map, right? So again, we're skipping to the head of the line. We're now just building out visuals from day one. And now we have a nice little sales dashboard. You can click through these, everything's dynamic. One that's a little further along, I gave it a little title here, some slicers, right? So we can see trends. I want to see how we're doing in Bluetooth accessories in Kentucky, that kind of thing. So that's the integration with Power BI, delivering all those nice clean data sets into Power BI. You can publish this back up into powerbi.com for different people's workspaces. You can embed these back into Teams, into BC. So all of that functionality is still there. But what we noticed was that, hey, we're using our Microsoft credentials to log into the Cosmos portal, right? Up here on the right. So why can't we deliver those back into the portal so that you're logging into one place in a meeting, you show an Excel-based report, someone raises their hand, I want to see this visually, right? Well, you have access to all of your dashboards here in the portal. Anything that you've created, it doesn't have to be off Cosmos data. It'll have your workspaces that you have permissions to. Those dashboards will also render here in the portal. Let me open up one of these dashboards just to give you an idea. It asked me to sign in for the day. But now, I can flip right over to my Power BI dashboard all in one place, and I can toggle through these. They're all still interactive. Um, and now I'm in a meeting, I'm showing a Power BI dashboard, whereas I can also have my row and column based formatted Excel reports. Now, the last thing here is this 21.57 million. That's going to tie up with whatever you're showing in Excel, right? So you won't be in that meeting saying, why does it say 21.5 million here? And in the Excel, it said 10 million, right? And everyone's looking at each other like, oh my gosh. But yeah, that's the idea. You're pulling from the same data sets, so everything ties together. You have your Power BI stuff here, dashboards, you have your reports here in the library. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about here is the back end, right? This is that Cosmos data engine that I mentioned previously. Now, this is what really drives Cosmos. This is what makes it really fast and performant. So what makes it really easy to use. Drag and drop right in Power BI, point and click right in Excel, right? So as part of that 25-minute onboarding with Cosmos, we we put in your BC tenant ID. That's how we speak to Business Central, pull in your information. We have an app up in Microsoft's App Source, which is published and validated by Microsoft. We'll choose the different companies you want to pull in information for. If you have multiple companies, maybe you acquire a company in the UK, you just check the box and it pulls that information in. We'll do that during onboarding. And then next, I want to check out the data model. And let me actually mention, not everyone's going to have access to this area. This isn't someone where or someplace where everyone's going to be playing around in. This is more for, if you need to make any changes to your data model, like simple changes or anything like that. But I've checked out my data model, and very similarly to the report gallery, we have a pre-built extension gallery. And the reason we were able to do this is, again, we've been doing this for decades, right? So we know pretty much what people need to report from when it comes to accounts payable, receivable, the GL information, inventory, purchasing, and sales. We split it out like this because some organizations don't have inventory. Maybe they're just a sales services organization. We don't want to muddy, the waters. We just want you to choose what's relevant to your business. Most businesses import all of these sections, right? So you import these sections, and what that does is it snaps together to create this nice reporting data model that's nice and clean, right? So if you remember, I was using that sales transactions table, parts of it in Power BI, and that sales transactions table in Excel. What's nice about this is that, yes, we were using that sales transactions, right? But what's nice is that it's, actually made up of 8 different Business Central tables coming from BC. You don't have to be a database expert, right? We don't have to know that we have to tie together the value entry and the return receipt and sales credit memo lines and all that stuff. It's already done for you on the back end. Okay. And then you have all of these fields available for you to report from. What's nice is that you can also modify this, right? So it's not static. You're able to drop in different fields if your report people need to, use different fields. And we can talk about that in more detail at a later time. But what's next here in the staging area, and this is something that I always love to mention, is that we're pulling in everything from BC, right? So these are pre-built data models I just showed you, but we have access to everything, be it, custom table field that Clients First helps you with in your BC. Maybe it's an ISV table in field or a per tenant extension. All of that is read in through the Cosmos adapter here, but we're not bringing in things like workflow webhooks subscription, right? We're not going to be using that for reporting. Now, you certainly could just by checking the box, right? But the idea is we want this to only be relevant data for your report people. Now, let's say the top 2 are like custom tables. You simply just check the boxes, right? They're going to pull up over here in as fields for your reporting database. And then you can tie that in so that next time your people who need to report, they'll have those available for them to go ahead and drop it into a report. Now you can do more complex things back here, like, calculated fields and, tying tables together, things like that. But again, that's something that we can dive into with the Clients First team as well. Lastly here, and as I wrap up, if you make any changes back there in the data model, maybe a report person calls you in the morning, hey, I need to have this field exposed. You go ahead and check the box. You click Publish Pipeline. Cosmos goes in, grabs any changes that have been made, pulls it into your reporting database. And then, I'm going to wrap up here with refreshes, right? We take that modern approach to reporting. And what that means is that we're employing that cloud data warehouse up in Azure. It needs to refresh, right? Currently, we have ways to schedule refreshes throughout the day. But we also realize that, hey, maybe it's like a really busy week or like it's the end of the month and we're, entering a lot of GLs or whatever it might be. We give you the ability to run the pipeline as many times as you need, right? So it's on-demand refreshes of your data, which takes seconds, and you can hit this as many times as you want. So there's a lot of different ways that we can refresh the data so that you have your most up-to-date data. Okay. Now, just in recap, we talked about, all of your reports here in Excel. You have your Power BI stuff here. So it's all logging into one place and you have everything that you need for reporting. The admin section, often overlooked, but very nice to be able to do this right here in the portal. And then that's about it. The data management section, right? It's all pre-built, but all modifiable. And yeah, that's pretty much what I had for you today, Chris, and for the overview of Cosmos.
Yeah, you had mentioned, and great job giving an overview of the product. You mentioned something about 25 minutes.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
just elaborate on that just a hair?
Absolutely. So we wanted to make this as frictionless as possible, both for the partner side and for the customer. Your implementation we call onboarding, right? So it takes 25 minutes to onboard with the software, and that's it, right? Now, we do have something called white glove onboarding where we do trainings with you and we write some reports with you and things like that, which, take depending on your schedules, right? Could take a week or two or three, but to get the software up and running, 25 minutes.
Yeah, and we witnessed that when we first started looking at Cosmos. We said, let's put it in for ourselves. And it was literally a half an hour,
Yeah.
and we were able to start using software and start using the tool internally. So there's a lot of power in what's available with built into Business Central, but I thought it made sense to let everyone take a look at this very powerful tool based on the SaaS platform. So if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer. I've been monitoring, and if you just type something into the chat, or even if you raise your hand, I'd be happy to address any questions that anyone may have. I guess you were so complete that you answered everyone's questions in
Yeah,
the presentation, which is fantastic. If we take a look at, I'm just going to share real quick.
sure.
No, that's not where I share. Share screen. And I do see that a question just came up. Let's share here. And the question that was typed in, is there a trial or anything similar that can be used prior to onboarding? So that's a question for you, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for the question, Ryan. Yes, we do actually have a trial that we came out with. It's a paid trial, and the reason for that is because we set you up with a full Cosmos tenant, give you full access. But what that comes with is two trainings with our team. So you'll have two 1-hour trainings, and then you'll leave that trial with 2 to 3 production reports as well. So it's a really comprehensive trial. We work with you to make sure that you're successful with the tool. So yeah, we do have a trial version.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Kelly or myself. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. And if you have any ideas for future webinars, this webinar came out from a client requesting, seeing more data on reporting. So I'm happy. I'm always listening and monitoring my emails, and we're happy to present. And thank you so much for sharing and spending your 50 minutes with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Chris and Kelly and team over there for having me on. I really appreciate it. Again, always a pleasure. And yeah, have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thanks, everyone.